Hello again, everybody. This is James Champion here, and it's part 7 now of the journey of myself retracing the footsteps of my grandfather F.W. Champion in India. Having been with the researchers in the Rajaji National Park in near Rishikesh, I then crossed the river and went to the town of Rishikesh, and my focus then changed, and we had some wonderful opportunities to observe people visiting the river for holy purposes. This is actually the River Ganges, just where it flows out of the Himalayas, and in this picture you can see the beautiful clear water with a wonderful white sandy beach, and in the next picture you can see me looking down on the river as it comes out of the Himalayas. Now, the reason why I was in this region was because I was preparing for the Gona Lake trek. Now, this trek also has a deep significance for my family. In 1893, as you can see in the next picture, there was an enormous landslide where half a mountain crashed down, blocking the valley. And behind this natural dam, a lake began to form. And in the next picture, you can see it somewhat better. You can actually see the whole of the mountainside, which had crashed down across the valley, and a lake was formed behind that natural dam. Now, people were very nervous that when the monsoon came, the water level would rise to such an extent that the dam would breach, and large numbers of people lower down the river would be flooded out and probably killed. So a number of people were sent up to the site, and their job was to lay a cable all the way down from there to Rishikesh, and as soon as they felt that the water level was reaching dangerous heights, they were to send a message and a large evacuation would take place. Now, we're not quite sure what my great-grandfather Keith Stewart of the Royal Garhwal Rifles, what his role was in this, but we found these photographs in his photograph album, and it took place shortly after he joined the regiment, so we assume that he must have played a role in this. Now, on the 23rd of September 1894, the water level did indeed reach a very dangerous level. The message was sent down in the middle of the most terrible rainstorm, and a very large number of people were evacuated. Finally, the dam did breach, and many towns were destroyed, but luckily hardly anyone was killed, so it was a very successful mission. Now, I knew that even after the disaster, there was still a lake, even though the dam had breached, because I knew this because my grandparents had visited the lake again in 1936, and they did some fishing on the lake, so I'd seen photographs of that, so I knew the lake still existed. So I thought I'd like to visit this place, but to my great surprise, when I arrived, I found, if you remember this particular scene that you can see here, here is the scene in 2006. The lake has gone. Now, it obviously had not gone in 1936 when my grandparents visited, but apparently in the 1970s there was a small earthquake, and what water remained flowed out, I believe, not killing anybody because the water level wasn't very deep at that stage. But it was very interesting for me to see this place, which had a great significance, and how it had changed over the years. You can still see the landslide site from 1893. Now, here you can see a picture of my grandmother. As I mentioned, she and my grandfather visited the lake in May 1936. You can actually see a picture of her in a boat fishing on the lake. And here is the same scene in 2006. You certainly wouldn't have found many fish there. And here you can see the scene a little higher up in the mountains. I actually followed the same route that my grandparents had taken to get to the lake, and we arrived in this village, and it's a village that's only really occupied during the summer months. We were there in early November, so we were lucky to find anybody resident in the village at that time, and we stayed with them in their houses. If you look above the lake there, you can actually just see a triangle of rock, which is actually the top of the landslide that we've just seen. Now, from here you have the most magnificent views of the Himalayas, and these pictures show something of that. And here again you can see, looking back at the top of the landslide. And coincidentally, when I got back to Scotland afterwards, I was looking through some more pictures that were taken by my grandfather, which I'd never seen before I went to India. And coincidentally, if you notice those two wooded peaks just above the landslide, I found exactly the same scene, but taken slightly further to the left by my grandfather. So he'd obviously had the same idea as myself of photographing that scene. And that's the end of part 7. Thank you very much for watching. Part 8 is about the Corbett National Park, so I look forward to seeing you then.